swim up to 100 miles a day. Orcas have very strong family bonds and social ties. In 1970, off the coast of Washington state, a large number of orcas were captured. The young orcas were brutally taken from their families. The only surviving orca from those captured has lived in a tiny tank at Miami Seaquarium, swimming in circles for almost 52 years. Please, set Toki free.
Bitte, lassen Sie Toki frei.
Let her feel the native cool water. Let her swim through the kelp beds. But most importantly, let her be with her family once more.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday, a little bit later than normal Toki TV. I know we have some folks out of the country who are going to have to watch us early in the morning because we're starting a little late, but thank you for being flexible. I literally just walked in the house 10 minutes ago, coming back from Lummi, and so you're probably going to hear my cat in the background freaking out because I haven't said hi to him yet, but just trying to jump on and get this open. So thank you all for joining us. Type in the chat there where you're watching from. Say hello. We'll do a quick wave there to Alejandro. Alejandro, how's it going?
Good. Rainy day today. I wasn't able to drive to Miami, so I stayed home doing some work and always just putting in the center of my life Lolita, always thinking of her because every Sunday or Saturday I go there, and I keep my hope. I keep telling everyone, encourage everyone to keep doing and go on for moving forward in action. Just keep sending emails, calls in a respectful manner, in a respectful way to the mayor, to the commissioner. Keep positive. Lolita is what she needs at this moment. Is what she needs at this moment. Just being positive, not negative. So I feel deeply into my heart we will achieve this goal. And please do it. Keep going. Thank you, Annette, for doing this show. I know you were traveling, so I really appreciate. But you never give up and always ready just for doing this. Thank you, Howard, and thank you, Susan, for staying here with us today.
Awesome. Howie, how are you?
Oh, I am just fine. I'm doing well. I did enjoy and was enriched by the Lummi ceremonies. It was just so beautiful. The Black Hawk singers are so resonating to I don't my depths. I mean, they really feel I can feel the power of them. And the dancers all around the floor. I mean, it was just so beautiful. So many people from the community came out in their ornate, beautiful costumes and did their dances in sequence, and it was just so beautiful. So I'm still uplifted by that. So I'm doing well, thanks. And I'd like you to meet for anyone who has not. This is Susan, my wife, and she is here to say hello and to bring us into a very mellow mood with some flute music.
Thank you for being with us, Susan.
Well, thanks for having me again. And I wanted to just take a short minute to mention my flute and how this is a very sacred flute that came to me in just very auspicious way. And at a time I was really wanting and needing a native flute. And the first time I played it in southern Utah in a Red Rock Valley, a butterfly landed on the little bird and stayed there while I played. And I only use it for special events and sacred events. And for a long time, I wouldn't play it at like our orca capture anniversary events. And because I didn't feel it was appropriate for a white woman to be playing a native flute. And one year, Tulalip Elder Ray Freiberg was there at our event with us and helping us. And I asked him about it and if he felt it would be okay. And he said yes. And after I played it, he said, "You have my permission to play this flute anywhere, anytime." And so I feel better after that. But I do want to say that because it isn't, the usual customary thing for a white woman to be playing. But it is a very sacred flute, and I am happy to be able to play it for these. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And I appreciate you opening us up in prayer. So for those at home, if you feel comfortable to close your eyes while Susan plays some flute for us and say your prayers, and we'll begin.
Very beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Guys, you're going to have to deal with me today. I'm a little bit of a baby cry. So coming back from Lemmy has been, I'll do my best to share a little later my experience. But I think I'm going to keep most of that in my heart, but I will share some photos from the weekend. And thank you, Susan, for doing that and bringing us all present to being here together, why we're here for Sk'aliCh ehl-tenaut, coming from her ancestral waters. I will just, we got to get her home. Just going to say that we got to get her home. So for those of you who get to be on those waters regularly, you know, just feeling the spirit of the water. I can't wait for her to have that experience. So today, Howard has agreed to give a presentation. I know not a lot of people were able to watch when he presented last week, and I'll let him tell you a little bit more about the organization that he presented with. But it was good, and so he has agreed to do that for us today. So Howard, I'm gonna hand it to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Susan. Wait, let's rearrange here a little bit, and I will proceed. Okay.
You ready for the PowerPoint?
I am ready if you are.
All right, here we go.
Um, well, we can go to the slides and start the show from beginning right there. Is that showing? Hello, is that showing?
Yep, it's perfect.
Okay, good. Just want to make contact. Well, thanks everyone for seeing this talk because it's very important to me. And I really need to tell this story. And I want to let you know that I will be reading some of this because there's a lot of information here and I don't want to forget anything. So, greetings from Whidbey Island, 30 miles north of Seattle, where we're grateful to live on land and water that are, and for thousands of years have been, home to coastal Salish tribes, living in spiritual harmony with the natural world. So, my experience is with population level studies, like the ongoing demographic study of the southern resident orcas. But for the past 25 years, I've also been focused on one single orca. Just guess who? And now that is more relevant than ever because how she is perceived will likely determine what happens to her. So who is this whale? And what can be done to help her? Because if most people believe she is capable of swimming into a stretcher and being carried back to her native habitat and doing well there, she'll probably get a chance to do that. But if most people think she's too old or too weak to do that safely, she probably won't be given the opportunity to try. Her life literally depends on how she is seen. And she is seen by many different people in different ways. I need to back up the slide just one. It accidentally got ahead and oh, there we go. I can do this. There we are. All right. Now we're in sync. If I hide that. Okay. So people at marine parks call her Toki, which is short for Tokitai. The name given to her by Dr. Jesse White, seen here in the 1970s in the tank with Toki and Hugo, a young male captured 18 months before Toki was. Hugo repeatedly bashed his head against the walls and the viewing window of the tank, at one point nearly slicing the tip of his rostrum off, which Dr. White stitched back on. In the photo, he's inspecting the wound. And Hugo died of a brain aneurysm, probably related to bashing his head against the walls in 1980. Dr. White was sent to Seattle in 1970 to choose one of the orcas captured in Penn Cove, 15 miles north of here. He chose her. He must have been impressed by her. He said she was so courageous and yet so gentle. His affectionate feelings for Toki seem to have set the tone for her care at this aquarium for many years. But for the staff there and for most of the public, she is generally seen as a willing performer, but a habituated whale, captured as a baby and wouldn't remember where she came from and only knows what trainers have taught her. Many believe she's psychologically damaged from being in that tank and isolated for so long, and that she can't handle changes. They often see her as old and frail and even geriatric or possibly ill or carrying pathogens that could infect the endangered southern residents. Of course, that can never be allowed to happen, but any possibility of that happening can be and will be resolved before she leaves Miami. For those of us who are unhappy seeing her kept in that tank year after year and would like to see her return to her native habitat, She's often seen as a symbol of captivity and human arrogance to dominate and hold large, powerful, wide-ranging animals captive for profit or entertainment. And they may see her as a highly intelligent, sentient being, brave and resilient, but condemned to a lifetime sentence just for being beautiful and magnificent. For the Lummi people and for Sk'aliCh tribes, she's known as Sk'aliCh, a family member stolen from them and denied the respect and honor and the life that she deserves. For the Lummi, Orca are Quiltomachan, meaning the people that live under the water. Lummis have declared their sacred obligation to bring her home. As a California kid who grew up in Carmichael, just north of Sacramento, and studied at Berkeley and Colorado College, I tend to look at her through the eyes of Western science and try to use observation and verification to see what and who she is. But over the years, I've gained a huge respect for her and her amazing resilience, her stamina, and her grace under extreme pressure, and for her affectionate nature as she was raised by her family. Of course, we don't know how she is seen or named by her own real orca family. Toki has been given 3 different names by humans. Dr. White named her Tokitai, a coastal Sk'aliCh greeting meaning nice day, pretty colors. But Seaquarium renamed her Lolita, saying she would be the young female mate for Hugo, who was also a southern resident orca. And Lummi Chief Bill James named her Sk'aliCh, after Sk'aliCh, a village on Penn Cove, where she last saw and heard her family. I call her Toki because it's easy to say, and it's the name that she has heard all these years. So I'll try looking at her first as a member of her species, a killer whale or Sinus orca, with all the astounding abilities we now know that the species possesses. And then I'll consider her as a member of her community, her clan, the southern residents. She's identified as a member of ehl-pod by photos from the capture and the fact that her calls match with the ehl-pod dialect. And then I'll try to see who she is, with her own personality and character and abilities, and her incredible spirit and tenacity through almost 52 years of confinement in a tank that's only 4 times her length and not as deep as she is long. But first, to catch you up on current events, a lot has happened just lately. It started with 2 big developments last summer. First, in August, the Dolphin Company, owner of 22 dolphin parks, mostly in Mexico, but including 3 in the US, announced plans to purchase the park. The previous owner was a holding company based in Sweden, so this offered the possibility of communicating with the new owners. Then in September, a USDA inspection report from June 2021 became public that showed glaring deficiencies in the care and quality controls at the Seaquarium. The inspection was triggered by the deaths of 5 bottlenose dolphins and 1 California sea lion in 1 year there. Inspectors found enclosures in disrepair and animals, including Toki, underfed or fed rotten fish, and water quality had deteriorated. The veterinarian said her instructions were being ignored. However, that vet was soon fired after many of her allegations in the report were challenged by other staff. But virtually nothing ever leaks out of the Seaquarium, so we don't know how bad it really was. The whale stadium was closed to the public at some point with no announcement last fall, never to reopen, as it turned out. The park now has a new veterinarian and an experienced consulting vet to oversee Toki's care. Then in December 2021, another scathing report from the USDA showed 3 more dolphin deaths. One was a Pacific white-sided dolphin named Catalina. who died from trauma in the whale tank after an altercation with Toki. The Dolphin Company's purchase of the park couldn't be final until the problems itemized by the USDA reports were addressed and the company could be granted a license to operate from the USDA. Miami-Dade County owns the property and couldn't transfer the lease to the Dolphin Company without the USDA certification. So the USDA had to grant a license to the new owner to be able to own the park, but they couldn't continue to allow the egregious Animal Welfare Act violations in a dangerous, broken-down, 52-year-old unlawful tank. It's incredible that Toki has outlived the tank that was built for her in 1970. You can see that the gates to the medical part of this tank are closed in this photo, probably to separate one of the Pacific white-sided dolphins to avoid aggression. On March 4th this year, the USDA did grant a license to the Dolphin Company with a creative twist. That license simply did not include the whale stadium or Toki or the dolphin in the tank with her. USDA said they may not be displayed in any way, not even images or any public mention, and the whale stadium must stay closed. The Dolphin Company agreed and became the new owners of the Seaquarium and the caretaker of an orca and a dolphin that bring in zero revenue. Toki and the dolphin are now unseen by the public, but hopefully they're getting good care and trainers are spending a lot of time with them, we hope. Then on March 23rd, Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava held a press conference to announce that Toki would be examined by independent veterinarians and the results would be made public. Also speaking at the press conference was Pritam Singh, a South Florida philanthropist and environmentalist and board member of the Sea Shepherd Society, who had announced on February 24th that he was donating $1 million toward Toki's care. He founded a new nonprofit organization called Friends of Lolita, whose board includes Dr. Roger Payne, who of course helped discover humpback songs, and dolphin scientist Diana Rice, who did the same for mirror self-recognition in dolphins, and Charles Vinnick, who is also executive director of the Whale Sanctuary Project. Also on the board of Friends of Lolita is Lummi tribal elder Raynell Morris, whose traditional tribal name is Sk'aliCh. She has led the Lummi efforts to bring Sk'aliCh home. Raynell is co-founder of Sacred Lands Conservancy, a nonprofit working with the Whale Sanctuary Project to develop a sea pen for Toki in the San Juan Islands. Also speaking at the press conference were executives of the Dolphin Company, the new owner of the Seaquarium. The press conference showed amazing cooperation and collaboration among the diverse groups represented there. I mean, just think about it. The county government, the owner of the park, advocates for returning her to her home, whale sanctuary specialists, the scientific community, and coming along at just the right time, the wealthy benefactor who can make it all happen. The Friends of Lolita is unlike any nonprofit I've ever heard of. As of today, we haven't heard any more about the medical exam that was announced March 23rd, but I'm confident that the results will show that she's in good health and carries no communicable illness. And then the debates will begin in earnest about whether she's able to travel home. The rest of this talk is meant to answer that question. So now back to Toki. She is an orca, so what goes on in the brain of an orca? The brain of the killer whale or Sinus orca may be the largest of all animals. So move over, sperm whales. We have a new grand champion in the large brain category. Not that it makes a lot of difference. They're about the same size, but according to the latest research, orca brains are the largest of any animal. And they also have these dramatic girifications, which are the folds and the creases that are in the brain that, and don't ask me to explain it, but that allows greater cognitive function. Brains are hotbeds of electric currents. Electrochemical impulses arc across gaps between neurons called synapses, creating brain waves that convey everything we see and think and feel. Brain activity can be measured in humans with an EEG, an electroencephalogram. This is still about Toki, I promise. This is about her brain and her awareness and her knowledge. So orcas and other odontocetes, toothed whales, have this large paralimbic lobe that humans don't have. It's poorly understood, but some of the attributes that are ascribed to it are that it enhances thought processes and judgment and empathy and awareness and memory and emotions and language, which are all very high order capabilities, obviously. And here's where that electrical activity may play a role. Is there the potential for reception and interpretation by an orca brain of electrical activity in other orca brains or in human brains? How many of us struggle with how to interpret other people's feelings? I think it's probably all of us, all the time. Hopefully, we don't have to worry much about how others are feeling, but once in a while, at least, we have to try to read the room or be sensitive to someone's feelings. That's empathy. And it's very important for humans just to live and to communicate with others. The paralimbic lobe seems to enable extraordinary empathy. There are enough anecdotes that illustrate this enhanced empathy that it all adds up to a pattern of behavioral data. There are many credible reports of orcas either rescuing humans that indicate they knew we needed help, or arriving on time for events that are about them, that indicate they knew we were thinking about them. For instance, back in the late 1970s, Ken Balcom was stranded in a fog bank 25 miles from his dock up on San Juan Island. And that's a long way. And he knew the compass bearing, but he also knew that there are very strong currents that could turn him right into the rocks. There were some islands between him and his port at Snug Harbor. And right about that time, J-Pod came to the rescue. They came within 8 to 10 feet of the bow of his little 21-foot boat and stayed right there and guided him precisely to Snug Harbor, to where the fog lifted and he could see where to dock his boat, and they peeled off and went their way. And Alexandra Morton had a very similar experience that she talks about with a great deal of wonder in her voice. She was stranded in the fog in Johnstone Strait, and she could hear that there was a ship, big freighter or cruise ship, bearing down on her. She didn't know which way it was, though. She didn't know how to avoid it. And here comes the northern resident pods that came right around her boat and guided her to safety out of the route of that big ship. She sort of shakes her head and said, well, we can't really explain this, but we can't forget it either. And Alexandra also tells another story about when she was working at a marine park in California, where northern resident orcas Corky and Orky were held. And at one point, She had been up to Johnstone Strait and seen that the whales up there sometimes slap their dorsals. They just spin sideways and hit their dorsals on the water. It makes a loud slap. And so she was describing that to a trainer on the side of the pool. And the trainer said, yeah, okay, well, we'll work on that next week, and walked away. And Alexandra turned around, and there was Corky slapping her dorsal on the water over and over and over, like with great joy, and creating these huge splashes and waves, just really loving it. So how did she know that that's what Alexandra was just talking about? Carl Safina suggests that the minds of whales and dolphins may have evolved to allow for the sharing of thoughts and intentions and feelings, and not just between them, but between them and human beings who possess a brain large enough to appreciate it. Another example of that was the former Secretary of State, Ralph Monroe, held a ceremony to commemorate J6, a J-pod whale who was named after him. J6 was named Ralph and passed away in 1998. And Ralph wanted to have a ceremony up on San Juan Island to commemorate him. He scheduled it for 1:30 and invited some media, and a lot of people gathered around. In fact, Susan was present at that. And here comes J-pod at precisely 1:30, and they had not been there for several weeks, but they showed up at exactly the time that was scheduled for this ceremony and stopped and attended the ceremony, essentially. And J6's sister, J8, breached 6 times in a row. Breach, 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 breach. How did they know that this was a ceremony to honor them? Also, there is the legendary time when Northern residents attended a memorial service for Mike Bigg, who was the pioneer who developed the photo identification method. So he was out with the whales for hundreds of hours for many years. And when he died in 1991, the Northern residents came around and actually attended his service, basically. Of course, it was on the shore side, and they were right there in the water. I've heard trainers say that they don't really train the orcas. They just sort of suggest what to do, and then they partner with the whales to get it right and get the timing right. But the whales know exactly what they're supposed to do. I think the word is out that orcas have some incredible abilities. Dr. Giles says orcas are a better version of us, which suggests that we could learn a thing or two from them. And Seattle Times writer Linda Mapes says when people ask her if orcas are as intelligent as humans, she tells them not to flatter themselves. So that was just looking at the capability of individual orcas. So how does this sort of mind reading or telepathic or enhanced empathy show up in an orca society? 20 years ago, this was published. The complex and stable vocal and behavioral cultures of sympatric, that means sharing the same habitat, groups of killer whales appear to have no parallel outside humans. That's again flattering humans, and represent an independent evolution of cultural faculties. So they have societies, they have cultures. So orcas, like humans, became aware of themselves, and somewhere along the line formed into a variety of distinct cultures in all the world's oceans. And of course, mirror self-recognition has been demonstrated in dolphins. And it's important to note that self-awareness is inherently a social phenomenon that may not be apparent to us, may not be obvious from our philosophical viewpoint of individualism, but to be self-aware, you need to develop that through interactions with others. The fact that orcas live in cultural communities is more than just a fascinating fact about them. As members of cultures, their behavior is completely different. Everything they do, every move they make is done according to the rules and traditions and examples and role models of their cultures. Their diets, their mating, their birthing, their communication, and so much that goes on when we have no idea what's going on, are guided by family members and traditions and their overall cultural rules. So Toki's extraordinary cool temperament and engaging personality are inherently bound up with her identity as a southern resident orca. It's what she learned before her capture, and it doesn't go away, even after over 50 years of isolation. The Toki we see today is the same whale that learned how to be an orca and deal with life from her family, especially her mother. It's not just imprinted in her memory, it is simply who she is. This classic illustration by Uko Gorter describes the known orca ecotypes worldwide, neatly confirming Rendell and Whitehead's description of orca cultural faculties. Some ecotypes, as they're called, include more than one cultural community. For instance, there are 5 salmon-eating orca communities across the North Pacific, from the Salish Sea to Kamchatka, each with its own language and traditions, and no crossover between them. They're all considered to be the resident ecotype. This great whale watcher cover from 2011 acknowledges a basic fact about orcas. Being the apex predator of the entire world's oceans is also not just an interesting fact about them, but it has profound implications for their behavior. It means that they have lost the need for an instinctive reflex to sudden danger. No fight or flight or fright. They just don't experience sudden danger. They don't have that deer in the headlights look. At least they didn't have any danger until modern industrial humans invaded their habitat. But no other animal in the sea would try to stalk or attack an orca. They're too big, too fast, and too capable of thrashing or ripping apart anything that may try. And they're famous for their teamwork and cooperation. They usually have each other's backs. And that's been true for maybe 8 or 10 million years. So orcas have had nothing to fear for a very, very long time, except other orcas, either other clan members or other clans or communities. But they seem to have developed cultural traditions that minimize hostile interactions. What we see today so far, anyway, in every orca community worldwide are matrilineal family groups centered around the elder grandmothers, with no apparent jousting or competing for dominance by males or females, living in cohesive cultural communities with no in-or-out migration, with usually only 200 or 300 individuals in each population. And we see virtually no hostility or aggression either within or between communities. That's not to say it doesn't ever happen, but it's very rare. Shows they are capable, but they just don't. They've learned not to. And no orca has been banished from its matriline or pod to our knowledge. And thus, there is no cause for fear. That's all still about Toki. It means Toki also has no fear. Orca females are usually reproductive from their early teens to around 40 on average. after which they may live another 3 to 5 decades or more. This long post-reproductive lifespan corresponds with the essential role post-reproductive females play to guide their families and share food with them. Older females also continue to travel up to 100 miles a day with their families until their very last few days. At about 56 years old, Toki is post-reproductive, but her age does not indicate declining health. So this is where Toki is from, officially named the Sk'aliCh Sea in 2009. This beautiful map shows the river systems that once produced bountiful runs of big fat Chinook salmon everywhere at all times of the year. It also shows, down in the lower left, the mouth of the Columbia River, into which even more huge salmon runs coursed, fixated on their natal spawning beds throughout the Columbia and Snake River basins, all the way into British Columbia and Montana. Not a bad habitat to live in, they must have thought. Orcas are born after 17 or 18 months of gestation, and for about half that time, their hearing is developed well enough that they can hear the calls made by their families through the water in the womb. They're able to swim almost immediately after birth and are communicating with their family and starting to catch fish between about 1 and 2 years old. You may remember A73 Springer, who was on her own at less than 2 years, and L95 Luna, who is just a few months older. Both were able to feed themselves in unfamiliar waters with no help from anyone. One thing I learned from doing photo ID work is that if there's not a photo, it didn't happen. So this photo proves the Sk'aliCh Sea does exist. This is where Toki was born and raised. She just saw it from a different level. I think it's an amazing photo. The ancestors of today's southern residents no doubt met up and became very familiar with tribal families who traveled everywhere on a daily basis by canoe since time immemorial. They would have come to know each other personally, as they would have encountered one another repeatedly year after year. Humans and orcas were born and grew up in each other's presence over countless generations, building deep traditions of mutual acceptance and kindness for both tribal members and for Toki's clan. If Toki could put photos of her family on a shelf in her tank, this is what they might look like. I think we can assume that she holds memories of traveling and playing and resting or foraging with her matroline and her pod and her whole clan that might look something like these. So I'll just do a little portrait album here to show Toki's family as she probably remembers them. The big boys often hang out together, while the matroline, the grandmothers, are with the sisters and most of the kids. They're usually kind of out on the periphery of that and traveling sometimes a half mile or a mile away, but they're still in very close acoustic contact. They're within yelling distance. So, who is Toki? What is she like? Well, She's definitely a survivor. Against all odds and predictions, she has persevered almost unharmed after almost 52 years in that tiny tank. All the others that were captured at the same time or within a few years of when she was had died by 1987, except her. And she is courageous. Dr. White had it right. I don't know how he knew, but yes, she's courageous. I mean, think of what she has been through and is still going through. Extreme trauma of capture, the loneliness and separation from her mother and family, the boredom of captivity, Hugo's awful death in 1980, and hurricanes that come pounding in. Many animals have died at this aquarium. It's just fortunate that the whale stadium has not taken a direct hit yet. New trainers come every few years, a changeover. She builds relationships, and then here comes a new trainer. And hostile dolphins and rude people, we don't know what she's been through. But I can just imagine there have been some very harsh times. And she's gentle. There's no record of her harming anyone, trainers or herself. So she is courageous and gentle. And she's affectionate. This is Mayor Daniela Levine Cava. And I just wonder what sort of magic was Toki weaving here. Trainers have said when she looks into your eyes, it's like she's looking into your soul. Mayor Cava hasn't said anything publicly, but the way Toki's looking at her with that enhanced empathy, it's not hard to see that something intense and beautiful was going on there. Maybe some kind of orcan mind meld. And she's playful. On the left, she was playing sprinkler with Rachel Anderson, who visited her for 3 days straight, 2 shows a day. As soon as she could get in and as long as she could stay, she would talk to Toki, tell her she loved her, tell her help is on the way, reassure her in every way. And Toki wanted to play, so she played sprinkler. And actually that photo was taken by a trainer who came by and said, "Can I take your photo?" and timed it just perfectly to get the sprinkler. And on the right, what I want to show you, and I have to sort of lead up to this, was that 4 aquarium employees in blue shirts, so she knew who they were chatting by the rail, ignoring her. So Toki the trickster drenched them and a few innocent bystanders. And then you'll see she checks out her good work and then moves on looking satisfied. See how they scatter? She got them. The crowd loves it. And she checks it out. Yeah, that was good. Got the job done. I think it's a sense of humor. I don't think that was meant to harm anybody, just get their attention. And she seeks companionship. She loves to be with people who love her. She's not withdrawn. She doesn't just sink to the bottom and remain motionless. She reaches out to engage with people. Here she's coming over to Rachel, who is telling her how much she loves her. Southern resident orcas stay with their mothers their entire lives. With their enhanced empathy, you can imagine they're able to form deep relationships. And she's energetic. For 50 years, she did 5 breaches per show, 2 or 3 shows per day. She's maintained her cardiovascular vigor over the years. and she works out. On top of her shows, she swims laps. In this clip, there were no trainers. Nobody told her to do this. Totally out of her own volition, she just felt like having a good run. Maybe she enjoys the endorphin rush. Maybe she knows the pleasure of a good workout. Watch her slowly build up speed until she streaks around the pool. Any runner or athlete knows that regular workouts make you feel good and help maintain good health. Or maybe she felt like exercising to the tune of Hey Soul Sister. And there she is. Still doing laps there, but that's a good portrait of her. Oops. So, in conclusion, let me say Toki can be safely and successfully returned to her home, and she'll love it. She's energetic, she's playful, she's creative. Her mental and physical health are good. She still has all her teeth, maybe all but one, but plenty of teeth. Basically has a very healthy mouth. She knows how she was raised, and she'll remember how she was raised. She could still have 20 to 40 or more years, and she responds well to trust and affection, so she won't just wander off. Transport is routine and not risky. No reason to worry about the ride home. So just to sum it all up, the only reason that she would not go home now is the fear of failure based on incomplete or wrong information. Okay, that's my show. That's all I've got. I will unshare now and we can talk. Well, we can talk about the dams also. But
Do you want me to put it back up?
no, can you take it down?
Yeah, we're down. We're down.
Oh, okay, you're down. I'm not down.
You'll still see it.
And all I have to do is do that and then go there, and I'm back there. Hello.
Awesome. Thank you, Howard. That's a lot of talking
great.
and a lot of presenting, and I want to thank you because you could do that for hours if anyone knows.
Oh, I could. Anybody got any long questions? I'll give them long answers.
Well, there's a couple of comments, and one was cute. It says maybe she's making waves for the dolphins. Looks like they were enjoying jumping in them. And when I was watching it, I didn't catch this last time we showed it, but she got them pretty riled up. And so I thought that was cute because it does look like they were having a good time as well.
Some excitement for them too.
Yeah, some thank yous coming in for you, Howard. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Wisdom Wonderful presentation, Howard. Thank you. I'm scrolling through here to see if there was anything. And I don't know the answer. Someone said, I hope they're not playing music anymore now that she isn't on show.
I don't know the answer. Yeah, I do not know.
Let's see. Some people are asking if the mayor can go back and visit. I believe she can. I don't know. People want to know why it's taking so long to hear from the vet assessment. I know that's the ongoing every week. You know, some rumors a couple weeks ago that there was going to be a press release, and then maybe this week. I do think we're going to hear soon something. I don't know what, but I do think we're gonna hear something.
Yeah, I
soon.
think so. I mean, I can understand the complications, the different opinions, and the debates about how to announce it. And yet, the exam itself should be a completely objective medical examination. So they probably, if they have results, it's just about how to present those results.
Yeah, someone's saying it would be nice if Mr. Albor were to visit and look into her eyes as well. And I don't know that he maybe he has.
Maybe he has. Yeah,
I'm assuming
he probably has.
But I don't know that firsthand. But I'm assuming that he has. And Amanda says, I pray we hear something very soon. And Amanda, thank you for putting that up. I wanted to just touch on that again a little bit. I know people want to know every week. There was a comment the other day, like, enough prayer. No, there's not enough prayer. We're going to keep praying. And even when she's home, we're going to keep praying. So prayer works. And we've seen that shift from the years of protesting. Protesting obviously works as well. But I think that the shift we're really looking at here is when you're raising your fists outside, that energy is going to her as well. So I'm going to keep reminding you, as frustrated as we get, and Howard, you said it beautifully again last week, she's still hanging in there. So we need to do the same. We can be strong. We can continue to pray. Michelle says that she prays daily and has a meditation group that share prayers for her as well. Thank you, Michelle, for doing that on a daily basis. We need that. We need that. She needs that. And we said, I don't even know how many shows ago, probably 10, that during this time we're going to hold her. So we got to hold it together. We can hold her up, and we're going to keep doing that. People want to know who the vets will be. I'm sure that'll come out as well. I assume that we don't know the names. I can imagine how bombarded they would get if they put out their names. So, but I know that there was a list of many very qualified vets. So I'm not sure who is in, but I know that they're qualified. Let's see. Someone said, thank you. I've learned a lot. Prayers for Toki to come home. Thank you, Peggy, Haishka. Yes, for everyone for being on here. Alejandro, you were showing your cedar rose, and for people who weren't on last week, do you want to tell us who that is? Because we have a lot of new viewers.
Yes, I received this from the lamination when they came to Florida a few years ago. Lolita was baptized to Sk'aliCh, and this is her real name now. The village, Sk'aliCh is the village where she was captured. So I keep praying for her. You get my rose here, made from the cedar tree, and I really, really appreciate. And I keep hearing this rose in front of my computer. So every day when I sit here in front of my computer, I remember Lolita. Tokita Sk'aliCh. And encourage everyone to keep sending positive vibes, keep a positive energy. Don't give up, because Lolita Tokita Sk'aliCh never gave up, and we are holding her in our prayers. So keep doing the same. And like Howard and Annette said, sooner or later we're going to have a news. It's not an easy job to get a real that, because it's not easy work to do with this. It's a big responsibility. It's not easy. So keep praying. We will achieve this goal. I can feel it deeply into my heart.
Amen to that.
Kashka.
Absolutely.
And Michelle also said energy transfers. So we send love and light. Yes, thank you. There's I know there's some big protests planned and coming up, and I just want to encourage everyone that just pray through that if you can. That I know people are angry, and I know all that, but let's do our best to manage that. For ourselves, it's for self-care as well. And I know a lot of times it's easier to care for others than ourselves. So just, again, remember, if you're feeling frustrated, please don't direct that to this aquarium, to Toki. We want to only do love. So if you want any ideas on or practitioner, names of practitioners you can talk to pray through those feelings, absolutely send me a message, and I will put you in touch with some people who have said they would be willing to pray with people one-on-one just to get through those, because we're all one, and yes, energy does transfer. So I'll try not to harp on that too much, but I do want to stress that, because that is what we are about. That is what this group is about. That's what Toki TV is about. And prayer definitely works. I want to show a couple of pictures. Like I said, I just got in, so you'll notice I had my camera off for part of the presentation. Howard, I wasn't ignoring you, and I did watch it live last week.
I want to see your photos.
I was trying really hard to do some photos. So I met a wonderful photographer out there named Ray Morris, and do a quick picture of Ray. That's Ray right there with his fancy camera, and he took some of these really pretty photos. This is here where the Hawaiians were presenting Jewel James at his honoring ceremony with ceremonial paddle. That was beautiful. I have a quick little video too. I'll show you guys that in a minute. But here's another picture by Ray. The Hawaiians did a wonderful presentation. Here is a picture that has many of the pullers, the people who were on the canoes paddling in a circle. This is my photo, so it might not be as nice as Ray's, but this is, how do you say it, Howard? Camp Oki in Orcas Island. How do you say the camp?
Well, Camp Orkila.
Yes, Orkila. Thank you. There's like a bridge that goes out, and so we got this picture, and you can see the canoes up there. Gosh, that's beautiful. Someone said you should stay and go to Orcas. So I do want to say I was really happy to spend the day with my very dear friend, and we went around Orcas Island, and you're right, Orcas is gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful. Here's a picture of the canoes coming in for the landing there in Lummi. And then I ran into this guy while I was there as well. That was really fun to meet Howard in person. It's interesting meeting. I'm with you more than I am my family. So it's interesting to see someone in person after already claiming them as family. Alejandro, I can't wait to see you, and I know we're going to be there when she comes home.
Yeah, I'll be there for sure. I promise to Freddie, to everyone, for sure. I'm going to be there. I'm going to see Lolita swimming in that water, her natural water with her family. That's my goal, everybody's goal, and we will achieve it. Keep praying for her. Sooner or later, we're going to have news, good news. I can feel it, Howard.
Yes.
Our mission is clear. Yes.
Yes.
That is what we're all about.
One of the sacred sites there, and Kuchiakin, and I sat there, and the wind was coming through the trees, and you can smell the cedar, and the waves were coming in, and you can hear the waves and smell the ocean, and the ground was vibrating. I don't know how to explain it, but we have all the senses there, and I sat there and I just felt this like really slow, beautiful wave. It was so healing. It was so healing. Tears came streaming down my face before I knew I was crying, and didn't even know I needed to cry. And it was so healing, and I just can't wait for her to feel that, because if that was healing for me, I can't even imagine how healing that is going to be for her to be back home. Gosh, you guys, it was fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. We are at our hour. We're actually a little over an hour, and I want to thank everyone for being patient. And like I said, we were running. I was running in here and trying to get set up because I just got back. So I'm a little filled with emotion. My spirit and my heart are very, very full. So I'm going to be with that. Maybe next week I can share a little bit more with you about my personal spiritual experiences while I was there. But for now, I'm going to just hold that in my heart and just share with you that it was wonderful. It's beautiful. Real quick, I do want to show this. Andrea sent me this, and I got this right before I left, and it was perfect because I wore it out there. I wore a lot of it out there, actually. And if you haven't seen her stuff, she just donated, she donates all the profits to Sacred Land Conservancy. So for the GoFundMe for Toki with sacredseed.org, this is one really cool way if you want to, and I'm trying to get her name here because I don't want to mess it up. But you, Andrea, Don, Shelly, and you don't, you can give these as gifts, buy some early Christmas gifts. Every time you hold or glance at your Tokite Milagro, take a moment to visualize and manifest Toki being returned to her native waters. Set your daily intentions to continue to do all that you can to advocate for the freedom and restoration of Tokite's dignity. Blanket Tokite with your love, thoughts of love and hope. So that's just someone else who's using their talent and in their way to bring her home. So thank you very much, Andrea, for that. I absolutely love that. Oh, look, a few other people got some too. So I'm seeing that. And thank you, Christina. Christina's always got my back. Andrea Don Shelley is her name. And so if you haven't, go to her Facebook, check it out. And yeah, and let's see. I think I will end with a song that I did. I'm not going to sing, but we are going to have someone sing in a few weeks. So I'm not going to tell you who that is, but it's someone really special who's agreed to possibly sing for us soon. Anybody want to guess?
Oh, no.
Not you, Howard. It's not you.
I'm excited already, but I don't know who it is.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I took this video with my cell phone and I was sitting a little far, but just to share a piece of the ceremony for Jewel James that we saw. I'm going to close with this. It's just a little over a minute. And thank you everyone for watching. We absolutely love you and love that we all gather here for her every single week. And we'll see you next week. Any final words, Howard or Alejandro, before I play this?
Well, thank you so much, Annette. I so appreciate you doing this and being our gracious host and racing to your home studio to make this happen on time as we rescheduled, but it went off very well. Much appreciated, and so good to meet you up at Lummi.
That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Annette. Thank you so much. You're doing an amazing job, like Howard said. Thank you, everyone, and keep praying for Lolita. Keep praying. Thank you. Hashka.
Hashka to everyone out there who watches. Yes.
Thank you. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.